Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my August and September wrap up. I'm combining the 2 months because in August I had a pretty good reading month. I read 9 books, but then in September I read 4. Since I didn't do an August wrap up anyways, and there's no reason to do one for September, we're just combining the 2, and I want to talk about these books because I found some incredible books. Like over the past couple months, I have really expanded my reading. Now, I have not expanded genres necessarily, but I have expanded the type of fantasy books that I read, just kind of branching out a little bit. I don't know. To help me have the energy to talk about these books, I have an iced latte today, bourbon vanilla bean iced latte, which the syrup is from Trader Joe's. It is so good. And then I put cinnamon in there, and then it has pumpkin cold foam. Absolutely delicious. This will give me the energy to talk about all of these 13 books. Grab your fun drinks and let's yap about some books. So starting with the book that I finished at the beginning of August, we have Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. If you don't know about the Brandon Sanderson universe, go look it up. There's a huge catalog of all of the books that he has written. Basically a reading order of how you should read all of his books because they all take place within the same universe. So it is recommended to start off with Mistborn, the trilogy of Mistborn. So this is the first book. I did this 4 stars. I listened to the audiobook of this and I really enjoyed the narrator of the audiobook. Yet to pick up the other books, unfortunately. I know. I developed a really bad habit starting a series and then not continuing it. So I definitely need to continue the series. I'm just waiting for my hold on Libby to become available for the Well of Ascension. This world, it is kind of a dystopian fantasy world. It is ran by the Emperor. He is kind of this just looming character the entire book. You don't meet him until the very end, and he's kind of just this cloud that kind of carries throughout the entire book. He's just kind of a scary dark figure. I don't know. This book follows Ven and Kelsier, and basically Kelsier hires Ven to join his group of these rebels, and they are trying to take down the Lord Emperor. The magic system is based off of metals. Some people can manipulate one metal, others can manipulate all metals. Pretty sure Kelsier can manipulate all metals. The book is a very interesting fantasy world. It is a complex fantasy world, but not in a sense that it's confusing. Like, it's explained very well, and I just cannot wait to continue the series. I will very soon once my hold becomes available. Overall, I definitely recommend Mistborn. The next 2 books I will talk about very briefly because I didn't really enjoy them. If you watched my most recent 24-hour reading vlog, you saw how that went. But first we have Fireborn. This one I'm gonna rate a 2-star. Unfortunately, I had really high expectations going into this because I really want more fantasies that have dragons in them. In this one, the dragons are a very prominent part of the book. Like, they're literally in school to become dragon riders, and so I was very intrigued because I haven't read a book where they're dragon riders since Fourth Wing. That was the one and only book that I ever read, so I was super excited to read another book like that because I really loved the dragons in Fourth Wing. This fell so flat. I think it could have been because I was forcing myself to read it during the 24-hour reading vlog. I'm trying to press a pause on doing a 24-hour reading vlog because of the experience I had with it, because I just was forcing myself to read it, which is never okay. You shouldn't have to force yourself to read a book. It's a 2-star, but it's a pretty lenient 2-star because it could be my fault, but overall I just didn't really enjoy the book. I want a book that has dragon riders in it. Look at the synopsis. The overall baseline idea of this book is very interesting. I just don't know if I necessarily enjoyed the way that it was executed. I rated it 2 stars, but I'm not going to completely knock it. You know, like, it's not a bad book. I don't know. I just didn't really like it. Next we have What Happens After Midnight. This is the same author as Summer of Broken Rules. I read that book. I know it was really popular for a while. I personally really liked the Summer of Broken Rules. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was the first book that I actually read that was on Kindle Unlimited. So I bought this book shortly after I had read that book, and I don't really have too much to say about this. I'm gonna say it's like a 3-star. I don't not recommend it. Book I didn't necessarily hate at all. It felt really YA to me. About a high school boarding school. They're doing their senior prank. Like, it was fun for what it was. Just feel like I'm growing out of books like this. But overall, it was a fun time. Again, I read this in the 24-hour reading vlog. It was a fun audiobook, but I honestly just couldn't really care less. Again, I just think I'm growing out of books like this. But maybe if I read it at a different time, I would have liked it, but I don't know. This book was okay. It was fine. It's just young adult, and I think, like I said, I'm growing out of young adult like romance slash contemporary fiction, not young adult fantasy. I still love young adult fantasy, but I just don't think this type of book is for me. Now we are on the come up, okay? The next two books that I read are a very popular series that had its hype in the early 2010s, and that is City of Ashes and City of Glass. This is the second book in the Mortal Instruments, and this is the third book in the Mortal Instruments. I just had the most fun while I was reading these books. Absolutely adore this series. Now, is this a life-changing god tier series for me? Not at all. But I like it for what it is, which is just a fun YA fantasy. I understand why it had and still does have so much hype. They're just so much fun. For City of Ashes, I'm rating this 4 stars, and then for City of Glass, I'm rating this 4.25 stars. They just keep getting progressively better. City of Bones I didn't really enjoy too much because it took me a while to adjust to the writing, because this was written in the early 2000s and it is young adult, so it took me a second to adjust, but now I absolutely love these books. My light died and it's currently incredibly gloomy out, so we had to take a little bit of a break. But back to City of Ashes and City of Glass. Overall, I'm having so much fun with the series, and if you haven't read these yet, take this as your sign it's not too late to read them, because like I said, they're just such a fun time, and I'm taking a break from reading the Mortal Instruments to go into the Infernal Devices trilogy, because Cassandra Clare herself recommends reading the first 3 Mortal Instruments, the Infernal Devices trilogy, and then the last 3 Mortal Instruments for her reading order. So both of these, super fun time. We are now at one of the 2 5 stars that I found in these 2 months. The first 5 star is Shield of Sparrows. I read this on my Kindle because it is on Kindle Unlimited, and I loved it so much that I went and immediately got the physical copy. I've been on a book buying ban for the past like 2-3 months maybe. Definitely for the past like 3 months. I've been on a book buying ban for a minute. I have not let myself buy any full priced physical books. I've only let myself thrift books. I immediately went and bought this book because I loved it so much. I have a marriage between rival kingdoms. Yeah, marriage of convenience. Yeah. He traps her in a treehouse because he doesn't trust her, because he thinks that she's a spy, because her dad is the king of the rivalry kingdom. She is forced to marry the prince of the rival kingdom, like I said. The MMC, the guard of said prince. Yeah, I forgot. Is he the general? The general. I don't know. He's like up there. I just absolutely adored this book, and I fell in love with this book, and I think it's because it was the first popular, not even popular, but it was just like the first romantasy in a long time. I actually really liked it and wasn't disappointed by it. Recently, I just haven't really felt over the moon about any romantasies recently. They've just kind of felt like copy and paste to me. So I've just been going in with the bar on the floor with romantasies, and it's been kind of hard for me to pick those types of books up, but this one did not disappoint. I absolutely loved it. Obviously it's a 5 star, and I definitely recommend it. The next book I think was actually just announced, so definitely recommend, on Kindle Unlimited. Very good. I'm honestly kind of vibing with this gloomy lighting, so the rest of this video might be in this lighting because I kind of really like it. I don't know why. Anyways, the next book is a very cozy, short but sweet read, and that is 10,000 Stitches. This is the second book in the Regency Fairy Tales series. This comes after Half a Soul right here. They are a series technically, but they follow different characters, which I personally love in interconnected series, especially when they're that short. I listened to the audiobook of this as well. I did the same thing with Half a Soul, and the audiobook was just so much fun. It was kind of reminiscent of Emily Wilde. If you liked Emily Wilde, you would really like this. It's a cozy fairy tale fantasy. I don't know. This is a 4 star. I actually liked this more than Half a Soul, shockingly enough, because I did really enjoy Half a Soul. In this book, I connected with the characters a little bit more because it is a 200 and something page book, so it is kind of hard to build an actual connection with the characters, but this one I really enjoyed our characters. It takes place in the Regency era, so think Bridgerton but with magic and with fairies, I guess. Effie, and she is a servant, and she also is known for her sewing. Ends up running into this fairy. Kind of reminded me of Wendell from Emily Wilde, but basically Effie really wants to be a lady. She wants to be married off to a husband husband and have her own house and have the whole Regency life, okay? So she meets this man who she immediately thinks is love at first sight. She loves him. She wants to be his wife. And so she runs into this fairy and they end up striking a bargain. He will make her a lady and give her the dresses, give her a glamour to make her look like a lady, get her to attend these balls. Each minute she is a pretend lady. She puts one stitch into his coat. The reason why he asks for that is because he absolutely loved her stitching. He loved her work. He felt like there was something magical about it. He asked her to put stitching into his coat. This was just a super fun and sweet book. Just the perfect cozy fantasy. I really, really loved this. I definitely recommend giving this a shot. It is just so cute, so fun, so short. Love it. If you can't tell, I started going into my fall reading around here. And so next up we have The Dead Romantics. This book is like a 3.75 maybe, because it's not at the 4-star because I was really bored throughout a lot of it, but I will say the vibes are like impeccable. Like I feel like the vibes kind of bring it up a little smidge. This isn't a reading vlog and most of these are in a reading vlog. If you're wondering about any of these books and if I read them in a reading vlog, I probably did, so I'll leave it in the description, each reading vlog that the books were in, because I think almost all of these were included in some sort of reading vlog. It's back to The Dead Romantics. This is about Florence and she can see ghosts. Currently lives in New York City as a ghostwriter. Originally she's from a small town in South Carolina, I think, and this happens in the first like 20 pages, but she gets a call and her dad has unfortunately passed away, and so she has to come home for his funeral. Her family also owns and runs the funeral home in this town. She's back for her dad's funeral. They're planning his funeral, and the next thing you know, she sees someone from her life in New York City, but this certain someone is no longer alive. Overall, this was a cute and fun fall book, and I'm glad that I read it for sure because it's been on my shelf for a while, but again, I was just kind of bored. Like it kind of lost me a little bit. I didn't really feel connected to Florence like at all. I really, really liked our male love interest like a lot. I don't know, I just didn't really feel a connection to anything, and I still don't, but it still was a fun book. Like I have nothing bad to say about it. I was just kind of bored. Next up, we have The Shadow of the Gods. So this is when I kind of stepped outside of my comfort zone. This is a high fantasy inspired by Norse mythology. It's Vikings, if you don't know. This was definitely outside of my comfort zone a little bit because I am trying to dive into other fantasies, kind of broaden my horizon with all genres, I guess, because I do want to get into more fiction, but fantasy is the one that I'm focusing on right now because I tend to stick to, if you can't tell, the same types of fantasy books, but I do want to try to get into some higher fantasies and some non-romantasy. So Shadow of the Gods was the first step that I took in this direction, and I rated this book 4 stars. This definitely was slower to get into, but it was expected. It didn't really affect my reading experience because I knew what I was getting myself into, but I will say I was pretty like I felt like I was getting dragged on for about 300 pages, and then it really kicked up a gear from there. And it's not like the pacing was off or anything like that. It was exactly what it was supposed to be. I could not imagine the story being told any differently because you really need to get the backstory on these 3 characters. It follows Elvar, Varg, and Orca. And out of the 3, Orca is my absolute favorite. I am so excited to see her character arc throughout this entire story. I will be continuing the series. I just haven't yet. Like I said, I keep starting the first books in series and then I don't continue it. But if female rage was a character, it would be Orca. I love this woman. She's just such a badass. She's such a badass. Her kid gets taken from her and she will burn the world down, let me tell you. This book primarily just follows the point of view of these 3 characters and kind of just shows them where they are in life. It's not really too much about politics for most of the book, and then it kind of delves a little bit more into the religion and politics. I am very excited to continue this series. The next book I will talk about briefly and you will see why. I simply just cannot rate this book okay, and that is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I read this in my Followers Choose My Bookish Fall Day, and there's not much to say besides I absolutely love this book, and I'm not rating it. It's the first book in Harry Potter. I feel like there is such a nostalgic attachment to it that I just can't properly rate it. I don't know. But I am really, really glad that I started reading Harry Potter. And if you don't know, I am vlogging my entire reading experience of reading Harry Potter, splitting it into parts, and I actually just posted my reading Chamber of Secrets and The Prisoner of Azkaban. So glad that I started this series. I also do not support J.K. Rowling. I feel the need to say that because y'all need to know where I stand with things. I do not support this woman. These are all thrifted. If you can't tell, I bought them secondhand at the thrift store. Every single one of these are secondhand at the thrift store. I do not like this woman or stand with anything that she does. Okay, moving on. And then the next book is my favorite book that I've read out of any of the books I'm talking about. It is one of my favorite books that I have read this year. If you can't tell, this is my second 5-star. And that is The Raven Scholar. I sound like a broken record, but if you watch the reading vlog where I read this book, you know exactly how I feel about it. I am just absolutely obsessed with this book. It felt so different from the other fantasies that I had read. It felt like a mix between, I don't want to say dark academia because the academia is so slim, but kind of a little bit of dark academia, I guess. There's a murder mystery, there's trials, a very interesting religious system. Like the gods are very, very interesting. Politics and the government itself is so easy to grasp. Doesn't mean that the politics are dumbed down, if that makes sense. Couldn't figure out the right word for what I'm trying to say. This book was just so easy to grasp and understand, and I really enjoyed, if you can't tell, how slow it was, because sometimes I do want a fast-paced fantasy, but other times I like spending time with our characters, and I like spending time where we are in that certain part of the book. We don't have to jump back and forth between things. I don't know. This was just perfection. Take one thing out of this video, it is to read this book, okay? That and Shield of Sparrows, but this one is like a 6-star read. This follows Nima, who is a Raven Scholar, and there are 8 different houses, and the 8 houses represent each of the gods, and the gods are different animals. So there's a raven, there's a tiger, there's a dragon, there's a bear, there's a fox, there's 8 different animals. You get what I'm trying to say. Each house represents a specific characteristic of these gods. So Raven Scholar, intelligence, and then we have fox, which are clever and cunning, and it follows very specific characteristics of each animal, I guess. And the emperor who has been ruling over is stepping down in his reign. There is a trials that is taking place, and one person in each house is a contender for said trials. Whoever comes out with the most points is the emperor. And so that's kind of like the baseline. But while all of this is going on, there is a murder mystery happening, and also the plot twists in this book. Literally in the last, I want to say 70%, it is plot twist after plot twist after plot twist, and I did not see any of it coming at all. For all of those reasons, I did really, really love this book, but I really loved the characters. The contenders in these trials, even the ones that you weren't supposed to like, you still ended up kind of liking them because they're also products of the system. And so yes, you hate them, but also you kind of love them and you kind of don't hate them. I don't know. And then also the main side character, I just love him, and I love the way that his story took, and I am just so excited for the next book, which I think was also announced recently. I think. I don't know. But please read this book. If you get anything from this video, read The Raven Scholar now. Now. This is going to be one of my favorite books I read this year. 100%. Now we are in the last 2 books that I read in these months. Next we have Immortal Dark. This one I'm rating a 3 something. I don't think it's just a 3-star. A 3.5. Possibly. Maybe a 3.5. This one I feel conflicted about. I read this in the same reading vlog. You guys can just check the description. I don't know why I keep telling you this, but I read The Raven Scholar, Immortal Dark, and the next book all in the same reading vlog. And the thing that made me pick up this book is because there are vampires in it, and there's a handful of families, I think 10 to 20 families. I don't remember how many, but there are certain families that can have vampire companions. I don't remember the exact politics as to why. It says, orphaned heiress Kedon Adane grew up far from arcane society of vampires she was born into, where human bloodlines gain power through vampire companionship. When her sister June disappeared, Kedon is convinced a vampire stole her. The very vampire found to her family the cruel yet captivating Susenyo Sagat. To find June, her sister, Kedon must infiltrate the elite Uxley University, where she must survive living with Susenyos. Even as he does everything he can to drive her away, it doesn't matter that Susenyo's wickedness tempts Kedon to surrender life to darkness. She must find her sister and kill Susenyos at all costs. So basically, Kedon's sister is taken. She's convinced that she's not only taken, but possibly dead, and the person that took her is none other than her family's vampire companion, Susenyos. It's honestly not that convoluted. I'm just really bad at explaining things, but there's forced proximity. She thinks that the vampire that she has to live with killed her sister, and so there's a bit of enemies to lovers going on, and again, forced proximity, and also the house is like a Victorian-esque house. That's kind of how I imagined it. And it's also a magic house. Also a lot of fun. That is something that I really liked about this book. Overall, I didn't really like our main character. I like Susenyos, but I did not really like Kidon. I don't know why. She just kind of annoyed me inside of her head. I also had just read The Raven Scholar, and I really, really liked our female main character in The Raven Scholar, so I think she was just kind of insufferable. I am a part of the minority because I know a lot of people really, really love this book. It's a vampire YA fantasy. It was just a fun book. Again, I did read this after I had just read a 5 stars. I think this book was kind of set up for failure. I'm not gonna lie. Moving on. Now moving on to the last, but certainly not least, the last of the 4 books that I read in September, and that is A Darker Shade of Magic. This was my book club's book club pick for September, and I was pleasantly surprised. This book is like a 4, if we're gonna get technical, 4.25. I feel like I liked it a little bit more than a 4, and I have since read the second book in this series, which says a lot because, like I said, I keep reading the first book in series and not continuing. This one, I picked up the book immediately after I finished it. That's saying something, but I can say that I do like the second book more than this book, but I have grown to like this book more since I finished it. But this book I have been wanting to pick up for a while now, but I read Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab, this one, that book, and I did not really like it. It just was not my cup of tea. Again, I know a lot of people who loved it and it's like a god tier book for them. I personally just wasn't the biggest fan of the pacing, and I didn't like the characters, and that was in fact the point, but I just didn't really love the book. So I was very hesitant going into this book. I was a little scared because I really, really wanted to like this book. I've heard that The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which is one of her other popular books, is written similarly to Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil, but then A Darker Shade of Magic is written differently from that. Well, that was kind of what gave me a little bit of hope with this. Anyways, it is different from the way that Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil is written, and I am glad because I do really, really like V.E. Schwab's writing. It was just the pacing in Bob that I didn't really get down with. This book, though, was just so much fun. How many times can I say that? Honestly, it is about parallel Londons. There's elemental magic. What more could you want in a book? Like, honestly, what more could you want? It follows Kel, and he is what is called a magician. He is a traveler, which basically means that he can do magic. He actually can do all 4 elements, but he is a traveler, so he can travel in between the parallel Londons. And he is one of the 2 people who can travel between the parallel Londons. We have Lila, and she is a bit of a mystery, but Lila is from Grey London and Kel is from Red London. Obviously, he can travel between the Londons. While he is in Grey London, he runs into Lila, and something happens to where they are now on a mission together to go do this thing. But overall, I really enjoyed this book. I'm really enjoying the series. I cannot wait to get into the 3rd book. I've been kind of putting off reading it because of how much I am liking this series, and I feel like the 3rd book could be a 5-star potentially. I definitely recommend this series. Do you guys want to see what this pile is looking like right now? Because I have to restack all of these books so I can like get a thumbnail, but is what we are currently working with, so that's a lot of fun. Now out of books to yap about for the months of August and September. If you made it this far, thank you so much. I don't know how you did it, as I can't listen to myself talk for a long time. I don't know how you guys do it, but I appreciate you. Love ya. Let me know if you've read any of those books and your opinions on them. Let me know if you got any recs from this video. If you guys enjoyed, if you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.